Hello, 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 and welcome to the Texarsis Live. I'm Shane Moore, and I'll be your host tonight. We'll be talking open lines, open forum, any topic that you want to discuss. You can join our live chat and let me know what's on your mind, and we'll discuss it and hopefully find an answer for it. Anyway, anything that you want to talk about, paranormal, spiritual, if you want to share different stories, personal experiences, hey, it's open forum night, so let's get to it. We'll take a short break and allow listeners who want to join our live chat to do so. And keep in mind that you can call in to the show at 903-956-0055. Outside the U.S., just add 1 to that and call in. Be glad to have you share your stories, questions, comments, whatever you want. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
You want to, please don't be polite, cause I like your attitude. Let's forget about a curfew, cause all that is stuck in my head. It's me and you, both speeding, my heart is racing, but I'm not sure I wanna face it, cause it only does this with you. Our bodies meet, I can feel the tension, move us into the next dimension. Let's just let our bodies be true. We make out for the thrill of it, mess around for the thrill of it. Don't stop now, never let this end. For the thrill of it, we can have it, no regret. We make out for the thrill of it, mess around for the thrill of it. Don't stop now, never let this end. For the thrill of it, we can have it, no regret. Let's live life without regrets. Girl, put your faith in me, even though we just met. Let's forget about a curfew, cause all that is stuck in my head. It's me and you, both speeding, my heart is racing, but I'm not sure I wanna face it, cause it only does this with you. Our bodies meet, I can feel the tension, move us into the next dimension. Let's just let our bodies be true. We make out for the thrill of it, mess around for the thrill of it. Don't stop now, never let this end. For the thrill of it, we can have it, no regret.
And I am back. Well, I hope everybody's doing well. And looking forward to open forum, where listeners, you guide the show. Just whatever you want to talk about, whatever's on your mind. There's nothing too strange or too bizarre. Matter of fact, the more bizarre, the more strange it seems, probably better as far as this podcast goes. I welcome your ideas, your theories, anything that we can discuss and talk about. There's news in the world of AI that we talk about a lot on here, quantum computing, different things like that. I was talking to Elaine. She's my co-host on the other podcast that I have concerning relationships. And she said that she was talking to a friend who she asked about jobs, about what fields that she should be looking in if she was looking for a job. And they said that they named 2 fields, and one of the 2 top fields was, believe it or not, artificial intelligence. And I found that very fascinating, a little unsettling. I mean, we're talking, it's really, really growing fast. It is growing extremely fast. Hey, Randy, glad you joined. 1 is a lonely number. But yes, Elaine said that her friend who's on top of the workforce or keeps track of what is what's going on as far as people looking for jobs and everything. She said that I believe it was artificial intelligence and marketing were the top 2. And I'm thinking, wow, that's incredible. I mean, artificial intelligence, not even 2 years ago or 3 years ago would I have imagined that artificial intelligence would be a viable, topic or job that would be listed, much less be in the top 2 of the most quickly growing career fields. And it's just, I don't know. It's really, it gives a lot of credence to people like Elon Musk. I'm a fan of. He said this is going to grow and not only grow, but it's going to grow out of control if it hasn't already. He said that we've crossed the event horizon where there's no turning back now. So just said to get ready, and so I guess we have no choice. But that's very strange to me that that would be one of the top career fields. Anyway, news today I want to share with you. These are just the headlines. It says here that artificial intelligence finds ancient ghosts in modern DNA. And I'm just going to read these while we give listeners a chance to join the live chat. But yes, artificial intelligence finds ancient ghosts in modern DNA. Neuroscientists close in on the brain signature for consciousness. Now that's pretty alarming. It zooms in or located the signature for consciousness itself. But first we'll discuss this first article. Artificial intelligence finds ancient ghosts in modern DNA. Now I have not read this yet, so Just bear with me. This is from Quanta Magazine. And yes, I subscribe to these strange, far out, bizarre magazines. And we'll just read it for what it's worth. But it sounds to me like that it may be describing what I call genetic memory. We'll see. It says, with the help of deep learning techniques, paleoanthropologists find evidence of long-lost branches on the human family tree. Artificial intelligence is helping paleontologists and anthropologists reconstruct the complex patterns of interbreeding among archaic populations that led to the modern human race. Could deep learning help paleontologists and geneticists hunt for ghosts? When modern humans first migrated out of Africa 70,000 years ago, at least two related species, now extinct, were already waiting for them on the Eurasian landmass. These were the Neanderthals and the Denisovians, archaic humans who interbred with those early moderns, leaving bits of their DNA behind today, genomes of people of non-African descent. But there have been growing hints of an even more convoluted and colorful history. A team of researchers reported in Nature magazine last summer, for instance, that a bone fragment found in a Siberian cave belonged to the daughter of a Neanderthal mother and a Denisovian father. The finding marked the first fossil evidence of a first-generation human hybrid. Unfortunately, it's very rare to find such fossils. Our knowledge of the Denisovians, for instance, is based on DNA extracted from a mere finger bone. Many other ancestral pairings could have easily transpired, including ones that involved hybrid groups from earlier crosses. But they might be practically invisible when it comes to physical evidence. Clues to their occurrence may instead survive only in some people's DNA. And even then, they may be subtler than the signs of Neanderthal and Denisovian genes there. Statistical models have helped scientists infer the existence of a couple of these populations without fossil data. For example, according to research published in late 2013, patterns of genetic variation in ancient and modern humans point to an unknown human population having interbred with the Denisovians, or their ancestors. But experts believe these methods inevitably overlook a great deal, too. Who else contributed to today's genomes? What did these so-called ghost populations look like? Where did they live, and how often did they interact and mate with other human species? Researchers showed the potential for deep learning techniques to help fill in some of the missing pieces that experts may not have been aware of. They used deep learning to sift out evidence of another ghost population, an unknown human ancestor in Eurasia, likely a Neanderthal-Denisovian hybrid or a relative of the Denisovian line. The work points to future usefulness of artificial intelligence in paleontology, not only for identifying unforeseen ghosts, but also for uncovering the very faded footprints of the evolutionary processes that have shaped who we've become. Now, I don't necessarily agree with everything said there, but I find that very interesting that artificial intelligence is really stepping up and, discovering things that humans seem to just couldn't quite locate or discover or find. It's unsettling, to say the least. Current statistical methods involve examining 4 genomes at a time for shared traits. It's a test of similarity, but not necessarily of actual ancestry, because there are so many different ways of interpreting the small amounts of genetic mixture it uncovers. For instance, such analysis might suggest that a modern-day European shares certain traits with the Neanderthal genome, but not a modern-day African. But that doesn't necessarily set in stone that these genes came from interbreeding between the Neanderthals and ancestors of Europeans. The latter, for example, could have instead bred with a different population, one closely related to Neanderthals, but not the Neanderthals themselves. So that's in today's news. Very interesting. Randy, you say sounds similar to that Egyptian pharaoh video that you sent me. His DNA was not of this world. Exactly, yeah. And there's been a lot of talk about the Egyptian pharaohs having very, very pale skin, blue eyes, and there have been accounts that I've read for a long time that they only came out at night because their skin was so pale that they would burn in the sun. Sounds like me. I'm like Casper, the friendly ghost. Very, very pale. I guess that comes from my Scottish heritage, ancestry. But the sun is not my friend. It burns me like I look like a lobster. So I stay out of the sun. This next article, and that's one thing that you sent me about that Egyptian pharaoh, and it brought back what I had read about the pharaohs, like Nefertiti, and King Tut. They were genetically different, so maybe their DNA was not of this world. Who knows? Very strange. This next article, neuroscientists close in on the brain signature for consciousness. A new study has revealed that one of the key facets of consciousness seems to be complex, long-distance communication across multiple brain regions. Despite an extraordinary array of scientific discoveries advancing our understanding of the human body, we still know remarkably little about the brain in general, and the nature of consciousness in particular. Setting aside centuries of philosophy over what actually defines a conscious mind, neuroscientists are only now grappling with how our brains generate conscious awareness. The goal of this new research was to try to identify a variety of neural signatures that can effectively indicate the presence of consciousness. This could, for example, allow doctors to set apart consciousness in unconscious patients suffering from brain injuries in cases where individuals are unable to communicate. The research involved over 150 subjects who were studied using functional MRI. Some subjects scanned were patients in diagnosed vegetative states, while others were healthy individuals. The researchers ultimately discovered 4 specific neural activity patterns that could distinguish a person's place on the spectrum from conscious to unconscious. The most complex pattern identified dynamic communication across 42 different brain regions. 42 is a very important number. 42. Some of you know that, some of you don't, but it is. It's a very important number in numerology. Very powerful number. Anyway, this highly active pattern of long-distance brain-wide coordination was primarily seen in healthy, awake, and aware subjects. At the other end of the spectrum, the fourth and least complex pattern reflected fewer long-distance connections in the brain. This pattern was often seen in completely vegetative patients. Interestingly, the research revealed many subjects fluctuated between different neural patterns. For example, some subjects in vegetative states did indicate brief flashes of more complex neural activity similar to the most active pattern. This implies that some vegetative and seemingly unconscious patients may enter brief states of consciousness. This active conscious pattern was primarily activated in vegetative patients after they were asked to mentally picture an image or activity. Now that's that's groundbreaking. I mean, that's incredible, because you're asking a person that's in a vegetative state to mentally picture an image or activity, and it lights up. So what does that mean? Well, it means they're not quite what we previously thought a vegetative state was. It means that they can hear, they can understand, and wow, that's huge. Subjects were also scanned while sedated with the general anesthetic propofol. Propofol. Okay, I got it. In that completely sedated state, any complex neural patterning disappeared, with both healthy and vegetative subjects displaying the least active neural pattern. Importantly, this complex pattern disappeared when patients were under deep anesthesia, confirming that our methods were indeed sensitive to the patient's level of consciousness and not their general brain damage or external responsiveness. The most immediate outcome from this research is the promise of offering doctors and families a better way to understand whether a completely non-responsive patient is still capable of conscious thought. Another promising prospect arising from this research is the suggestion that consciousness could be artificially altered using methods that force the brain into generating different neural signatures. In the future, it might be possible to develop ways to externally modulate these conscious signatures and restore some degree of awareness or responsiveness in patients who have lost them. For example, by using non-invasive brain stimulation techniques such as transcranial electrical stimulation. That's very promising. One thing that I've read, that I've researched, is the transcranial magnetic stimulation for depression, where there's magnetic magnets placed on the person's scalp. I'm not sure if they're just placed on the skin or if they're actually surgically embedded. I think it's just on the skin. But anyway, it's the magnetic resonance or something that stimulates the brain and helps alleviate some people's depression, and that's a huge thing for everyone, because I'm sure that I'm for certain that we all have suffered from depression, anxiety, at some time during our life. And if you haven't, I'm pretty sure you will. So that's promising. One thing that I don't necessarily like, I'm not too fond of, is when you tell someone, that I'm depressed, and a doctor or therapist or whatever, and the first thing they do is, let me write you a prescription for an antidepressant. It's like, man, really? I mean, can't we try something else? Because those antidepressants, and not only depression, but for things like psychosis and schizophrenia, can we try something other than drugs? Because those drugs, they have so many side effects, and it's very, very detrimental. The side effects are almost as bad as the mental illness itself in a lot of cases. Anyway, there's an article, and then this will be the end of the articles today. There's an article that Elaine sent me from The Mind Unleashed. This is really, really interesting. It says robots are writing the news and nobody's talking about it. As journalists face increased layoffs despite the growing appetite for up-to-the-minute timely news, a new trend has quietly been disrupting the news industry. Enter the automated reporter. News organizations are increasingly turning toward artificial intelligence, that's right, AI, for production using a variety of new automated systems to pump out content with minimal need for direct human input. Wow. According to a report by the New York Times, Bloomberg News relies on a system called Cyborg to produce about a third of its articles. Most of Cyborg's output takes the form of company earnings reports that are rife with percentage charts and other financial data that can be crunched down into a news story quickly and accurately. But Bloomberg isn't alone. Increasingly, major news agencies like Reuters, and Associated Press, along with a number of newspapers such as Washington Post and Los Angeles Times, are using algorithms to crunch out news on everything from local minor league sports to earthquakes. Even Patch, which publishes local news nationwide, relies on AI to draft anywhere between 5 to 10% of its stories for the 800 communities that it serves. Last year, the Washington Post took first place in the category of excellence in use of bots at the Global Biggies Awards for its use of Heliograph, a robot reporter that was used in the Post's coverage of the 2016 Olympic Summer Games and that year's election. The judges hailed Heliograph's work for the Post, noting that its set of examples and explanations are eloquently written and backed. The results also seem quite promising and very impressive. News industry executives claimed that while the use of automated labor-saving technology may cut the journalist out of the production process, it also helps free their hands and their minds for tasks that demand the analytical, emotional, and creative talents of a human reporter. And I'd just like to interject, for now. I believe it's just a matter of time before the artificial intelligence becomes analytical, emotional, and takes on the same traits that a human reporter would have. Indeed, for many journalists, reporting the details of sports games or financial reports is a tiresome, monotonous task that takes up bandwidth and spares little room to flex talent like they would on more in-depth analytical writing. Nick Ebershed, a data and interactives editor for The Guardian Australia, who created the company's own system called ReporterMate, offered similar reasoning, explaining, "The use of AI has long been a part of the reporter's toolkit in terms of speeding up production, whether it comes in the form of AP stylebook compliance software, spell checking and grammar apps, or even transcription and translation software. But many fear the danger that increased automation can pose not only to quality journalism and human journalists, but to job markets in general." So I think that says a lot as far as the growth and the spread of artificial intelligence. It's very, very unsettling, which we really need to take note of this because years ago, the Washington Post, many major newspapers that people they read. I mean, this was before the internet, before computers and everything. People were They swore by the Washington Post. They swore by the LA Times, this and that. And they didn't know that that the man who owned all these newspapers in the United States was Sungmae Moon of the Moonies in Korea. And it's like, wow. This guy owned all of these newspapers, and nobody knew it until the truth came out. And before major news stories were printed, they had to be approved by Mr. Moon, who ran the Moonies cult, if you remember. Those of you that are my age, 50 or older. Yeah, and that's crazy. But, people, they swear by, they swore by these newspapers and the news, and it's the gospel truth. Well, not necessarily. Makes you think about a lot of the news media nowadays. People, they put down CNN, rightfully so, and they swear by Fox. Let me see. Seems like that there's always a scapegoat. Could it be that news media like Fox and different others that supposedly give us the real news are owned by the same people that own CNN? Who knows? Who knows how deep that goes? But I can assure you, and I'm not being conspiratorial, just being truthful, this is my opinion, is there's a lot of deception going on. A lot of fronts that are put up, and they appear to be something that they're not. They're giving you the news that they want you to hear. They want you to believe a certain thing, a certain mindset or whatever. And they want you to adhere to a certain mindset. Are they telling you the truth, or are they telling you things that they want you to believe is the truth? That's the question. And it's very strange, very weird when you think about, we get our news from these different places, media. How much of it is truth? How much of it is fabricated? Who knows? And with today's technology, I'm not saying that it's not true, but I'm not going to say that it is true, that everything that is reported is true. You can go on YouTube and look up something something along the lines of similar news stories, similar news broadcasts, and you will find that that these reporters are seemingly saying the same thing verbatim, the same reporting, the same stories verbatim. When I say verbatim, they're just a little bit different, just a little bit different. The words are changed just slightly. But, and not only that, look up different celebrities, different reporters being transfixed or being seemingly being in a trance-like state. I swear, it is creepy, very creepy. One show, it's a sports show, had Magic Johnson. Okay. Magic Johnson, it's either Magic Johnson or Shaquille O'Neal. They were on this sports show, and they're live. And I believe it was Shaquille O'Neal sitting there wearing a suit and everything. He looks very professional. And all of a sudden he goes into this, he leaves. It's like Elvis has left the building. And he stares blankly into nothingness. And the three sportscasters are talking amongst themselves, and he's in another world. He's gone. The lights are on, but nobody's home. It is so creepy. And they're talking, and nobody is saying, "Hey, Shaquille, are you all right?" They don't even notice what's going on. And he's just sitting there. He's not saying a word. He's not moving. He literally looks like a wax figure. Okay? Now, the same thing happened with Al Roker on the morning show. Used to be Matt Lauer, Katie Couric, and Al Roker. Al Roker is reporting with, I believe it was when Matt Lauer was still there, was reporting, and all of a sudden something triggers him, and he just goes blank. And very, very strange. Now, what is even stranger than that is they had a hypnotist there. They were doing a show on hypnotism or whatever. And Al Roker was one of the ones that was the most suggestible to be hypnotized. And he's completely under. He's in a deep trance. And the look on his face is completely blank. It's just, he's just not there. And surprisingly, when he is outside with Matt Lauer, I believe, and I'm not sure who else it was, reporting, his facial expression looks the same as when he was under hypnosis. The guy wasn't blinking, nothing. It's creepy. Check those videos out, and you'll see. Randy, you say I saw a clip of a couple others like that. I think Beyonce was at a basketball game, and Eminem was in an interview, and it looked like he just checked out. Yes, absolutely. And you say, I want to say it was something to do with Scientology on the video I was watching, but I don't remember. Well, I was watching these different videos, broadcast or whatever, because it was I was researching MK Ultra in Project Monarch, and Britney Spears is also on there, and she's talking with Barbara Walters. This has been a while back, talking with Barbara Walters, and she literally begins talking to someone or some entity that's not visible. And she says, her voice changes. She sounds like a little girl, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And there's this look of fear on her face, and she begins crying. And it's very strange, just really, really creepy. And right before she did it, right before she broke down, she took her right hand and she put it over her right eye. And they say that that's something to do with the monarch with the MK Ultra programming. You said I just got chills, goosebumps. What did you get the chills and goosebumps from, Randy? You're very intuitive, so I want to know. Yeah, that was really, really creepy. And not only her, but Christina Aguilera. And it's weird because these girls that are experiencing this, they were all Mouseketeers, or they were all I'm not sure what you call it. They were in the Disney club or whatever for kids as young girls or whatever. Oh, okay. Yes. Okay, you said when you said she was talking to something that wasn't there and her voice changed. Absolutely. It was creepy. And Barbara Walters is like looking, like, what the hell's going on? Who's she talking to, And not only her, but there's another. She's a singer. I can't think of her name. I think it might be Nick Minaj or Mickey Mouse Club. Thank you. I don't really keep up with these names and everything, so you have to forgive me. But she's at the Oscars or the Golden Globes, and they're talking to her, and she checks out. She just checks out, and she does like the same thing. Her voice changes to like a little girl, and she's literally talking to something that's not there. Well, it may be there, but the rest of us can't see it. And Katy Perry is another that just, I believe there's a lot of mind control going on, and that these girls, even people like Al Roker, I mean, it's not just limited to women, it's men too, that in MK Ultra, they are programmed. They have handlers, these people that literally handle them, and they have trigger words that when they hear this word, or they hear a phrase, or they see a certain signal given, gesture, that it goes into that part of their mind that has been purposefully fractured. So it can be, so that compartment can be programmed just like you would program a computer, which brings us back to AI. And my question that I've asked on previous podcasts, I've asked people to consider or ask yourself, are we as humans just an advanced form of AI? Who knows? Very well could be. Randy, you say, I know I've seen videos of celebrities that sold their soul for success, so it might have been that too, but it's so scary the extent people will go to. Absolutely. You say Jay-Z and Beyonce, something about their daughter's name, Blue Ivy, meaning something. It's insane. Well, yes, and not only that, but look up Bill Clinton presidential race in a trance, and it is creepy. He is sitting in a chair. They're supposedly doing his makeup. They're doing his hair or whatever. He is not there. He is absolutely not there. Matter of fact, when I first saw it, I thought it was a joke. I thought that it was I thought it was a wax figure, or I thought that it was a robot that, or a skit. I mean, you know, like a comedy. I didn't know it was for real. He's sitting there, and he is literally, he has no expression. He's not moving. It's like he is completely lifeless. His eyes are open, but there's no movement. There's no expression, nothing. You can barely tell he's breathing. And this goes on for like 30 seconds. And it's not that he's just sitting there thinking. He's literally not there. His body is, but he's not. And then someone comes up and they say something to him. And he pops out of it. And it's like a totally different person. It's like his soul or his spirit had literally left his body and it was empty. And then when the person comes up and asks him a question, life comes back into him and he begins to talk to them. But it's really strange. And then not only Bill, but when you look at his wife, Hillary, when you look at her behavior, and how she throwing her head back and bobbing her head, shaking her head in a most unusual way. Her eyes are bugged out. I mean, protruding. It's like a snake. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's like a snake. Very creepy. And I believe that someone somewhere said a word that triggered her, and she's attempting to resist going under in public. I don't know how that works exactly, but I don't know if it's her handler that says that trigger word, or if somebody else can say it, or somebody else knows how to access or do that. But it is creepy. I mean, look it up on YouTube and you'll see what I'm talking about. She's walking up and there's these women that are so happy to see her and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden her head starts moving in this very, very odd way, back and forth. And then she starts jerking her head, and it's very, very unsettling. So anyway, we'll take a short break, and I'll be right back. So Randy, don't go anywhere. You're my sole listener tonight, so thank you very much. Be right back.
I gotta wait for better days. It's all starting now. It's not too late, we can be saved if we make the time. It's gonna be alright. Had a clue, now I got a feeling. Just gotta hold on tight. Tonight, we're gonna be stronger. This is our fight. We're gonna be stronger. We won't back out of this fight. Have no regrets. Just hold your breath and then Wanna feel if this is real? It's easy if we try. 'Cause every night and every day I wanna run and die. It's gonna be alright. Had a clue, now I got a feeling. Just gotta hold on tight. Tonight, tonight, we're gonna be stronger. This is our fight. We're gonna be stronger. We won't back out of this fight. Have no regrets. Just hold your breath and then you'll be stronger. Gotta wait for better days. It's all starting now. It's not too late. We can be saved. We're gonna be stronger. This is our fight. We're gonna be stronger. We won't back out of this fight. Have no regrets. Just hold your breath and then you'll be stronger. We're gonna be strong. We're gonna be strong. This is our fight. We're gonna be stronger. We won't back out of this fight. Have no regrets. Just hold your breath and then you'll be stronger.
And I am back. Anyway, talking about MK Ultra, one of the main people, main celebrities that are supposedly MK Ultra puppets, one of the main ones is Lady Gaga. Talk about weird. I mean, she's kind of strange anyway, but look up on YouTube the slow walk, Lady Gaga slow walk. She's walking to her limo and she's walking like she's frozen, like literally frozen. And there's people asking, is she okay? And they're asking her, are you okay? And she has that blank look, and that's just it. That look is the same on every one of them. When they go into that state, the look is the same. It's not a different look for each person. It's the same look, the same expression or non-expression rather. Taylor Swift is another. It's just like proof that there's something that is going on with these people, with these people's minds, and that they're being controlled. Their strings are definitely being pulled. But for what reason? Here's an article in Ranker. It says, famous people supposedly controlled by MK Ultra. And with every article that I read, I may not necessarily agree with everything, but I always encourage listeners to make up your own mind. It says, even though it sounds like the plot of a Philip K. Dick novel, the government program known as MK Ultra was an actual initiative undertaken by the CIA beginning in 1947 under the code name Operation Paperclip. Now remember, Operation Paperclip was when the United States brought over the German scientists, the German doctors, rocket scientists, mathematicians. They brought them over to the United States because they didn't want them to go to Russia. And, this was before the Cold War, and they didn't want that to take place. Russia becoming a superpower like the United States and gaining the upper hand. They brought these guys over, and that's where they were in charge of the Manhattan Project, these German scientists. And also, Werner von Braun is the one that started NASA, was the first one in charge of NASA. And this guy was a German prisoner. I mean, he was a German, he was all for Hitler. I mean, he's a Nazi. And Werner von Braun and Walt Disney, believe it or not, were very, very close friends. So, we talk about the Mickey Mouse Club and how weird it is that all these girls and guys too that were part of the Mickey Mouse Club as children, their behavior is like they are literally puppets. Their minds have been hacked. Well, Operation Paperclip, there were German scientists that they were very, very interested in mind control, which MK Ultra, the MK comes from the German mind control, and German control is spelled with a K. I believe it's KONTROLE, Mind Control Ultra. It says it's not the most horrible sounding name for a government project bent on controlling the minds of the public, but believe it when we tell you this stuff is spooky, and it really is. As more information about MK Ultra victims becomes declassified, more conspiracy theories grow, specifically about celebrities who people believe were under MK Ultra mind control. Real MK Ultra victims have suffered a variety of methods of mind control. In the 50s, the CIA thought they could get people to do what they wanted by injecting them with high doses of LSD. When that didn't work, they switched to drugs like barbiturates and amphetamines. When a lot of this horrific information came out in 1977, the project was supposedly scrapped. But a growing number of people believed that the project continued underground and began focusing on the only people who could truly influence the mass population: celebrities. Hey, Mona. Mona's here, my fiance. Glad you're here. Thank you for being here. Love you. Yes, focusing on the only people who could truly influence the mass population: celebrities. Now, one thing that is true is that to change mass opinion, or to change mass belief, the belief of the masses, how many years do you think it takes to change the beliefs of the public? And the answer is really surprising. It takes one generation. One generation. It's like if you can influence, if you can fool if you can trick, if you can divert one generation's attention away from, truth, make them look somewhere else, make them believe something else, then you've pretty well set the stage. Randy say my laptop is making me restart in 20 minutes, so I'm going to see if I can catch the podcast in the same place on my phone before I lose it here. Okay, thank you. But it's been shown that it takes one generation, and so it's also been shown that music is a great way to influence the mind, to, I guess you could say, hack into a person's mind, people's mind. But a better way is through video, television. So when you put music as a good way, but television a better way, what does that equal? It equals MTV. Why not put music with videos and really, really have a powerful way to change a person's mind, or to enter into their subconscious and control them? Yes, MTV. Wow. Who would have ever thought? It says, celebrities. In fact, anytime a famous person begins to act slightly odd, MK Ultra truthers come out of the woodwork, claim that the breakdown is evidence of their MK Ultra programming failing. Today we're taking a closer look at those celebrities who might be under MK Ultra mind control. Now, I'm not saying that I don't believe that each person that has a breakdown or, oh, it worked. Good, Randy, thank you. I don't think that each person that has a breakdown is necessarily from MK Ultra. But one thing that is undeniable is that when you see them have their breakdown, or they're triggered, they make the same gestures like Britney Spears and this other girl or whatever, that and there's been several. They take their right hand, they put it over their right eye, or they make a pyramid shape or triangle shape with their fingers, and they look through it with one eye. Very strange how the one eye is a big, big reoccurring theme, not only with singers, actresses, actors, but also in movies, such as Thor. You have Anthony Hopkins, you have Chris Hemsworth. One eye is out. Okay? It's like in Thor, Anthony Hopkins plays his father. His eye is out. He's wearing a patch. Later in the movie, Chris Hemsworth as Thor loses his eye, and he has a patch. Which is really a recurring theme in a lot of movies now, is that one eye being lost. Now, the Bible says, and I'm not preaching, so don't get me wrong, don't shoot the messenger. The Bible says that the Antichrist will be wounded, will suffer a fatal wound through his right eye. So, the Bible is saying that his right eye will be put out, will be blinded. Okay, Mona, you say eventually the patch comes off and he can see with both eyes. Glad you said that, because the Bible says that he will be fatally wounded in his right eye, and that he will miraculously be healed. Which means that, just like you said, Mona, the patch comes off and he can see with both eyes. So, I don't think that you could come up with a better description of what the Bible is describing that happens to this man that is the Antichrist. He suffers a fatal wound to his right eye, and of course, fatal wound, he's dead, and then he's resurrected, or seemingly resurrected, which means that he no longer is blind in that eye. That eye's back. He's back in business, just like the movie. Randy, you say, I've heard the triangle is something that Jay-Z does, and he's thought to be a Mason. Absolutely. And Jay-Z is friends with, what's her name? Marina Abramovic, that does the spirit cookings, and she's creepy. She's like 72. She looks like she's 40. She paints with blood, and they have these meals where there's cakes that look like human bodies, and there's workers there that put their heads through the table to give these cake bodies. It's really creepy to give these cake bodies, these cakes that have been cooked and shaped in the form of human bodies, to make them appear to be real. I mean, it's a real head, but it's a fake body. And there's people that are, cutting into these cake bodies or whatever, and they're eating, it's like cannibalism. And it's really strange, because there's a lot of actors that you wouldn't a lot of people that just like worship this woman. Like Gwen Stefani worships Marina. Hillary Clinton, Obama, they worship this woman. She's so, she's so artistic and so talented. She has a baby doll. It's a doll of a baby that she has in the corner, and she is painting this message on a white wall with blood. I'm sorry, this is going to get graphic, but with blood, but it's menstrual blood. And it's like, I don't know, like 5 gallons of it. And then she starts splattering this doll, this baby doll, with this menstrual blood. Now, is that something that is artistic, or is it like really sickening and gross? I say sickening and gross. And my question is, why in the hell would any politician or any singer or anyone say this woman is talented and she's great? She actually she put herself on display. She was completely nude, I believe. And she was wearing a sign that said, men could do anything they wanted to her body. Anything. And, well, people can be really, really sick. I mean, and maybe that's what she was trying to prove, but, you know, come on. I mean, that's really not the way to get your message across or whatever. Okay, well, you can look that up, and it's sickening. And they put she put out different things. I'm talking, she put out like clubs, sticks, knives, and even a pistol. And they ended it after 3 hours when a man put a pistol to her head. And, you know, who knows? I mean, I don't know if the pistol was loaded or not, but maybe the guy was going to blow her brains out. I have no idea. But there were sexual things that were done to her. And this is all in the guise of art. You know, that's not art. It's not art at all. And she has so many sexual, like public sexual, I don't know, things that she's taken part in, and it's like that she says that she's doing it for to raise awareness of women's rights or whatever, and no, it's actually she's doing it to promote perversions. Yes, she's actually doing it to promote violence against women. That's what I think. That's how I see it. It's not that she's doing it for women's rights or to show how women are abused. She's like welcoming it, and it's so weird. I mean, it's just strange, very strange. But it says right here that it says vote up the celebrities that you think are probably operating under the control of MK Ultra. If you have your own theory about what's happening in Britney Spears' brain, leave it in the comments. And that's what I was talking about as far as she's being interviewed by Barbara Walters, and right in the middle of the interview, she just snaps. And she's talking to someone that's not there, or we can't see him. Barbara Walters couldn't see him. And I'm sorry, just like a little girl, and she begins crying. And Barbara Walters is like, what in the hell's going on? So, what's going on in her brain? I have no idea, but something's going on in Al Roker's brain. Something's going on in Shaquille O'Neal's brain. I mean, look these people up on YouTube, Mona. I mean, since you're here, I mean, I've already told Randy about it. Look up Al Roker in a trance. You won't believe how creepy this is. I mean, he is just not there. Shaquille O'Neal, a sports broadcast, completely goes out in a trance for probably longer than anyone. Talking this like 2 or 3 minutes where he's just gone. He looks possessed. I mean, he looks like he's literally possessed. So does Al Roker. Anyway, Amanda Bynes. It says, in 2013, Amanda Bynes lost her mind. Most people saw this as a young star with a possible mental disability breaking under the strains of working in the entertainment business. But people who really know what's going on realized that something else was at play. After a series of tweets that culminated in Bynes revealing that she had a microchip implanted in her head. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe she said that to gain attention. I don't know, but it's weird that she would say that. Anyway, she might have a microchip in her head. I have no idea. Theorists immediately realized that they were dealing with yet another victim, excuse me, of MK Ultra mind control. Even though she deleted some of the tweets, the internet is forever. Okay, Britney Spears. One of the biggest pop stars connected to MK Ultra mind control theories is Britney Spears. A lot of people online credit her 2007 breakdown to the slippage of the programming she received while working on the Mickey Mouse Club. CIA mind control or not, who wouldn't be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs after a lifetime spent in the entertainment industry, which is true. Randy, you say, I saw the Al Roker one, and we'll try to look up the other ones if work slows down tonight or tomorrow at least. So, what do you think about the Al Roker one? I mean, is it creepy, or do you think he's just daydreaming, or do you think that there's like something that is really has taken over his body? I mean, or his mind. It is not normal. I mean, I have never seen anyone daydream like that. It's scary. I mean, I would not want to get near the man. And Al Roker is not an intimidating person. He's very friendly and everything, but I would not want to get near the guy. He's so creepy looking. I mean, wow. It's just beyond me. Miley Cyrus. Miley Cyrus has long been a favorite of MK Ultra truthers. Anyone who works their way through the Disney machine is pretty much marked as a mind-controlled operative, and her blossoming as a crazy, weed-smoking pop star just added fuel to the fire. Conspiracy theorists point to her video for Tongue-Tied as a thing from Cyrus about the dissociative nature of suffering from MK Ultra beta programming. Randy said it creeped you out. Yes. It creeped me out too. Mona, you say you haven't seen any of those? Look them up. They're just like very short, videos. Look them up real quick and tell me what you think. Shaquille O'Neal, just gone. Al Roker, gone. And Hillary Clinton, with her head bobbing and her eyes bulging, and there has to be a trigger. There's something that is triggering these people. Randy, you say it looked like he had checked out and then showed back up all of a sudden. Yes, but it's how long he checked out. I'm talking, the guy was checked. I mean, he was checked out for a solid minute, and he's live on TV, and it's like, 5 or 10 seconds is okay. I mean, if you're gonna daydream or whatever, or you're very focused or whatever, 5 or 10 seconds, yeah, I can see that. But for a whole minute or a minute and a half, he's just gone. On live TV, I don't think that would be, something that would be, it just doesn't make sense. Beyonce, Randy, you mentioned her. Beyonce is an entrancing pop star who's managed to bust genres and make a fan out of everyone on the planet. But that hasn't stopped people from looking into the possibility that she's basically a mind-controlled slave who is part of, you guessed it, the Monarch Project, which is MK Ultra, a branch of MK Ultra. Mona, you say, what do I look it up under? Look up Al Roker trance, and Shaquille O'Neal trance. Just their names, and then trance, and then with the Hillary Clinton, look up odd behavior or odd head movement, and you'll see where Hillary looks possessed. I mean, she just does. She just looks possessed. And I just have to say, if there's anybody that's going to be possessed, I would say it would be her. Randy say it looks like it wasn't daydreaming, though. It wasn't like daydreaming, though. Absolutely not. It really looked like the lights were on, but nobody's home. Exactly. He looks like, and Shaquille O'Neal looks like, they all look like that are going through this. They look like they're dead. They look like that their body is empty. And it very well might be the case. Not that they're dead, but their body's empty. Why? Because somehow, some way, through mind control or advanced technology or methods, I believe that they're really, they have a way of taking their spirit, their soul, whatever you want to call it, out of their body by the spoken word, a spoken trigger, and boom, they're gone. And we're starting to see more and more of that. There's news reporters that they're not as famous as Al Roker and these other people, but they're starting to do the same thing on live TV. Just, boom, they're gone. They're out. Well, when you think about it, how beneficial is it for those who are their trainers and want to get a certain message out to the masses, to the people, than by using news reporters? Because before the internet, and even now, there's people in my own family that, well, because it was on the news, it happened. It happened, buddy. Do not question Fox. Do not question the news. You just don't do it. Well, yes, I do. Always have, always will. Katy Perry. People are convinced that Katy Perry is one of the latest MK Ultra monarch babes that are turning the unknowing public into government zombies. So when she released a commercial in Germany to advertise her single Teenage Dream that was full of Marilyn Monroe iconography, MK Ultra truthers flipped out. Well, I've seen her go out. Just boom, she's gone, and being controlled, being used, very strange. Marilyn Monroe. We all love Marilyn, but unfortunately, Marilyn Monroe was part of the mind control. I mean, she was being used and abused. To be honest with you, very sad. But these people that are in this, that are being used. Okay, Mona, you just saw the Al Roker one. What did you think about it? I mean, pretty goofy, but it's a spooky goofy to me. Marilyn Monroe, conspiracy theorists believe that Marilyn Monroe was one of the first celebrities to be subjected to MK Ultra conditioning. They speculate that she was part of something called Project Monarch. And that's the monarch butterfly. And the reason that it's given that name is because the monarch butterflies, they fly from, I believe it's Canada to Mexico, deep Mexico, and they don't live long enough to make the entire trip to Mexico. They die. But the newborn butterflies, they instinctively, they somehow know, I guess it's genetics, DNA, I don't know. They somehow know that they're to go to Mexico during, certain time of the year, and then fly back to Canada. They just inherently know, like they've been genetically programmed or whatever. And that's where the name Monarch, Project Monarch, gets its name. Mind control. They speculate that Marilyn was part of something called Project Monarch, an offshoot of MK Ultra used to make betas, otherwise known as sexually programmed slaves. Supposedly, her secret CIA mind control handler was none other than Anton LaVey, head of the Satanic Church. Now, I'm not so sure about that, but I do believe that she was a programmed sex slave. And when I say slave, I mean there was a part of her mind there was of course fractured. I mean purposefully fractured and programmed to be used as sexually. I mean, God, I mean everybody knows that she was seeing JFK, his brother Robert. She was the mistress, or she was seeing Sam Mooney Giancana, who was the very powerful mob boss of Chicago, and probably one of the main people that was responsible for JFK and Robert Kennedy being assassinated. I mean, but all three, you have John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, and Mooney Giancana, they were all with Marilyn Monroe. And so just very strange. Lady Gaga that I mentioned. Very strange. Lady Gaga is a star whose very existence seems to merit a dissertation on occult symbolism and the use of conspiracy theories to create a seemingly deeper meaning behind simple pop songs. There's a lot of super crazy information to unpack about Gaga, but in a nutshell, it's believed that she's part of the MK Ultra Delta program. Basically, that means that she's a government-controlled, now I don't agree with this, but it says, a government-controlled assassin who is trying to break her programming by creating music, videos, and artwork that will send secret messages to the public in order to warn them of the government's evil secret plans. Honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Bad Romance Singer. There's so much cuckoo bananas info on Gaga, after you read it, your head is going to explode. I agree. Yes, Randy, you're absolutely right. Say, Marilyn just wanted to be loved. She did. And she even admitted that she was very much like a little girl that just wanted to be loved. There's so many people that take that the wrong way, and they're like, well, she was naive. She just didn't know things and everything. No, she was very intelligent. It's just that she played the bimbo very well. and you say, but it makes sense that she would be used like that. It's heartbreaking. Yes, it really is. But there had to be some way, some time that she was offered, or the offer was made to her. Maybe it was, hey, you can do this. You can help people by, I don't know, what pitch that they use, but it's certainly not, hey, do you want to be a sex slave? It's always presented in a way that, do you want to be part of a program that's going to help people? And it does anything but help people. And she was probably, apparently, yes, she wouldn't have said that if they were truthful about it. Do you want to be a sex slave and be used and abused? And, well, hell no, nobody does. Shia LaBeouf, I guess I'm pronouncing that right. When you think about it, he is kind of the perfect MK Ultra secret CIA operative. He grew up in the entertainment system. He has no problem appearing in some of the worst movies ever made, and he's debatably handsome. But all of that's worth nothing if his secret monarch programming starts to fail. And that's exactly what conspiracy theorists believe happened in 2014. So he kind of lost it, kind of went AWOL. Ken Kesey, the author of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, famously was one of the first people to take part in the CIA's MK Ultra test featuring LSD. What separates Kesey from some of the other participants is that he volunteered. Keisha, similar to Lady Gaga, Keisha fueled speculation about her ties to the MK Ultra program with her symbolism-laced videos and live shows. Theorists have even tied her single Die Young to the Sandy Hook massacre. Rihanna, she's very troubled. You can just see that in her face. Her facial expressions, just when she's just seemingly relaxed, you just tell there's something wrong. Just seemingly very sad. Says, we might need to save Rihanna. According to this expert on occult media, Rihanna is under the umbrella of MK Ultra's Monarch training program, and she's desperately crying out for help in her music videos. I would agree. She's crying out for help. I'm not sure, but it's very strange. Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber has had a decent amount of mystery surrounding his ascension to the entertainment stratosphere, and for good reason. He's just a hunk who appeared out of the Canadian wilderness bearing fruits of smooth pop jams. Or was he coached from a young age by a cross-government team of operatives in order to create the next super celebrity who could lull the masses into a false sense of safety? And then, believe it or not, Whitey Bulger. During the 50s and 60s, while Bulger was in prison for bank robbery, he volunteered for the CIA's LSD testing in exchange for time off from his sentence. In Bulger's journal of experiences, he compared the doctor running the test to Joseph Mengele, the Nazi angel of death. He even said, "I was in prison for committing a crime, and I feel they committed a worse crime on me." Whitey Bulger, who was was recently, captured after being for years on the run. Very, very violent man, part of the mob or whatever in Boston. Just a very bad dude. Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is an interesting entry into the MK Ultra mind control canon. Most theorists believe that she wasn't subjected to mind control at an early age like most members of the celebrity elite, but that she's only recently been compromised by CIA operatives who want to get their message of mind control out there. If Swift is truly being controlled by the government, then we've better warn members of her squad unless they've been compromised too. The Coreys, Corey Feldman and Corey Haim. Hey, Nazreen. Glad you joined us. We're talking about MK Ultra and the different celebrities that may be a part of it or show signs of being a part of it, of mind control. The Coreys. One of the stranger theories surrounding the modern-day MK Ultra program is the concept of twinning, where two non-biologically related children would be initiated into a soul bonding ritual, essentially giving them two halves of the same programmed information. Corey Feldman opened up about this in his autobiography when he explained that he and Corey Haim were victims of sexual trauma throughout their teens. Whether or not this is a part of MK Ultra programming, it's undeniably awful. And that's another key point or theme in this programming is the sexual exploitation or the sexual abuse of children. It's just when you look into Pizzagate, it's pretty sickening when you see and you hear the certain codes and code words, and supposedly there's all these code words and systems that have been set up for that very thing. And it's really weird because the woman that I talked about, Marina Abramovich, who does the spirit cooking with the blood and all the weird things, a lot of actors, Robert De Niro is crazy about her. Jay-Z is crazy about her, like worships her, and all these different. She looks like a damn vampire. I mean, she really does. And she might be one because, like I said, she's like 70, 72, and she looks like she's 40. So I don't know, but I'll gladly stick with my age. I'm not going to go around drinking blood, and it's just not my deal. Anyway, Mariah Carey. Rumors of Mariah Carey's programming have been floating around since she released Butterfly in 1997. And remember, Butterfly is obviously a reference to the Monarch programming. But when she and former spouse Nick Cannon had their kids, she was accused of using drugs in her milk to induce MK Ultra training. I don't know about that, but nevertheless, that's what it says. Kurt Cobain. You know, that band that defined an era. What if you found out that they were nothing more than puppets of the government? According to conspiracy theorists, Cobain's career was controlled by Courtney Love, an MK Ultra puppet whose father was a CIA operative. To go even further down the rabbit hole, Cobain supposedly didn't commit suicide but was murdered by a secret CIA assassin who went by the name William S. Burroughs. Now, I've never heard that, but do I believe it? I don't believe it, but I'm just reading it as it is. Roseanne Barr. Roseanne was the comedy queen of the late 80s and early 90s, but a lot of people contribute this success to her CIA programming. She actually disappeared from the spotlight for about a decade, but recently she's been taking to the airwaves to expose MK Ultra's control of the entertainment industry. Now that's a fact. I have heard her, and she has very boldly, loud and clear, said that the public would not believe that they could not comprehend the level of mind control. And she does say MK Ultra in the entertainment industry. She says, basically that if you haven't been programmed, that you're not needed. You're not going to make it. Could that be the problem with Tim Allen? Who knows? But they certainly got rid of him, didn't they? Cat Williams. The conspiracy theories surrounding Cat Williams are nothing if not exhaustive. It's believed by one person on the internet that Williams rose through the ranks of the entertainment elite via MK Ultra and possibly, I don't know about it, a contract with the devil, whatever. But that's a whole other list. Before being struck down for exposing MK Ultra monarch-fueled mansion parties in his special Pimp Chronicles. He did speak out against that. Against MK Ultra. Bill Cosby. People often want to find a larger reason for why someone as beloved as Bill Cosby would commit horrific acts he's been accused of, rather than simply believing that someone is a bad person or that they have incredibly destructive tendencies. People want to blame secret government programs. It's unfortunate that so much of Cosby's life lends itself to conspiracy theory. And that people can't see that Cosby is a guy who made his own terrible decisions. I agree. Or maybe he's being controlled by an MK Ultra rape demon. Yeah. I don't think that Cosby, if Cosby was anything, he was a handler, not a victim. Randy said, I've heard that at least some of the celebrities that supposedly committed suicide were murdered because they were getting too close to uncovering something big. Yes, like Chester Bennington. Yes. When you read about Chester and what he was working on, what he was researching, I think it was the last video that he was ever in. He said that, or next to the last video, he said something about that he had uncovered proof that there were people in power that were sexually abusing children, sex trafficking, all this stuff. And next thing you know, he commits suicide. Go figure. And it comes up, the cast of Boy Meets World. The stars of Boy Meets World aren't MK Ultra puppets. After all, they haven't had any crazy nervous breakdowns or released a string of tweets documenting the microchips in their brain. But maybe that's just what they want us to think. I don't know about that. I think that this... let's see. Anyway. But there's been quite a few strange... I don't know, experiences that have been public. Moni said, I just read that stars that have blonde hair like Katy Perry and Kanye West colored their hair blonde because it's a sign of MK Ultra, a symbol of stardom and of being newly programmed. Might be. And that's one thing that is very true, is that the symbolism is everything. It's like a secret language. And if you can't read the symbolism,
you're not going to know what's going on. Randy say, yes, exactly, getting too close to the big fish. Yes. And the big fish, it's not people that you think it is, because the people that you think it is, you know their names. But the big fish, nobody will ever know their names. Nobody will ever see their face. And if you do, you won't know it's them. Mona, you say newly programmed, meaning they woke up and had to be reprogrammed. Well, there you go. Exactly right. Kanye West was on Ellen's show, and he starts speaking out against MK Ultra, against being, against mind control. A little bit after that, he has his meltdown or whatever, and boom, he's dyed his hair blonde, and he's back in the saddle. Think about Martin Lawrence. I mean, this guy is at the top of his game, very, very successful, and he's running around the streets with a pistol saying, they're after me, they're going to kill me. Seemingly lost his mind. What about Dave Chappelle? He was on a talk show or being interviewed, and he just lays it on the line about how the movers and shakers of Hollywood, how they told him it was going to be, and he said, nope. He said, you can keep your $50 million. He says, I don't care. He says, I'm not interested, and left. And he really went through a lot of persecution, was basically blackballed in Hollywood. They told him, you'll never work here again. I don't know, it's very strange. But yeah, you can read about Dave Chappelle, Martin Lawrence. They really, a lot of people, a lot of the actors, and stuff, they've suffered because they refuse to play ball. This says every single award show is seen by Illuminati watchers as a public acknowledgement of the cabal's control of the entertainment industry, specifically music. In this case, it's talking about the 2014 Grammys. In this case, it was a black magic witchcraft ritual by Katy Perry, as well as Beyonce, advancing her beta kitten programming during her slot. It says that 33 gay couples were wed during Macklemore's performance of the song "Same Love," 33 being a key number in Masonic and Illuminati imagery. Finally, there was Madonna coming out dressed as a country preacher to address her subjects. In reality, this is the same cherry-picking scrutiny leveled against virtually every award show when performers go over the top to outdo each other and dominate post-show conversation. So is that really a black magic witchcraft ritual? I don't think so, but it's definitely a lot of symbolism that's sending a message, making a point. I don't know. In what's now known as Envelope Gate, 2017 Academy Awards presenters Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty accidentally read off the wrong Best Picture winner because they were handed the wrong envelope. A simple mistake, right? Wrong, according to conspiracy theorists. Moonlight won Best Picture, but the envelope given to Beatty, dubbed La La Land, was the winner. The mistake was quickly remedied, but by the next morning, many went to the internet to flesh out their conspiracy theories. Was it a ploy to draw more attention to the awards by the show's producers? Was it a way for the Academy to purposely take away from Moonlight's success? Does it have something to do with Emma Stone? Whatever the reason, many believe it wasn't just an accident, it was something much more sinister. I don't know. Very strange. So anyway, that's the mind control is a huge thing now. I mean, it's a very important topic, very interesting topic to say the least, very fascinating. But how does that work exactly? I mean, they fracture the mind and then into compartments, and then they program those different compartments just like you would a computer program, which is what I said at the beginning. That sounds much like we as humans could be just an advanced form of AI, and hey, if that's the case, then MK Ultra makes a lot of sense. But it's very creepy. And two, it is said to be used not only on singers, actors, it's used on politicians, a lot of people in power, people with money. Mona used to say Michael Jackson was thought to be what they called a variety slave, possibly introduced by his father into their bizarre system of spooks, commercialized pedophilia, and more. Yes, I think that his dad was a bad person. I mean, he definitely wasn't a good parent, was he? It's been documented that he was like a tyrant, and that he wanted his kids to succeed no matter what it cost. So anyway, the crippling effects of MK Ultra. This torture does not discriminate. How does MK Ultra work? It begins with torture to split the mind. To split the mind into different compartments, or to shatter the mind, rather. And each fragment is used for programming. Anyway, it says that there are identical behavior patterns of people that have been victims of mind control. These people range from 8 to 80 years old, male and female, different ethnicities, rich and poor, etc. The crippling effects of this torture does not discriminate. Here's the short of it. These people are tortured in ways we cannot and would not want to understand. The methods of torture are too numerous to count. Some of them include sleep and sensory deprivation, starvation, electric shock, being buried alive, sexual torture, and it goes on to worse things. Isolation, being bound in the same position for days at a time, and the list goes on. At the same time, the abuser will show kindness after a rigorous bout of abuse. So, in that case, that is very confusing, because when you're isolated and you have one person that is simultaneously torturing you and also comforting you, you begin to build a type of, I wouldn't say love, but I guess a resonance with that person. And even though they abuse you, you accept them because you know that they're also going to comfort you. And it's part of breaking down the mind. It's almost like programming you to love the pain. Very, very evil. It says, after days or weeks of starvation, the abuser will give them food. The victim's survival is solely dependent on the very person who time and again ushers them right up to the brink of death. They begin viewing their abuser as a type of savior. The desired goal of whoever is responsible for this treatment is to fracture the psyche of the victim. The mind is definitely a powerful thing. It creates a safe place, a dissociative state that the victim can slip into when undergoing torture. It can fracture the mind into several parts or several different personalities. During torture, the abuser may use a word or a phrase over and over again. Every time that word or phrase is used, the victim will flash into an alternate personality or become overly sexual or gain the ability to be silent during a beating. Whatever the abuser's desired effect is, when that word is said, that will be what the victim does. These victims' minds become so deeply broken and controlled that they almost always remain a slave to the abuser or to the network of people that the abuser is associated with. This person says, I could go on and on about why mind control is practiced and on whom it is practiced, but that's a whole nother topic. So what you have is it's purposeful, methodical torture for the sole purpose of disassociation. Disassociating from the mind, or the splitting of the mind, or the fragmenting of the mind. Each split is taken and programmed by a programmer with its own personality and abilities, languages, battle skills, weapon skills, whatever they want to put in you for their use. These alternate personalities are called alters. Codes and triggers are used to bring them up. There are big alters and subtle alters. The big alters require more than one trigger, a safety feature for the public at large, so to speak. The subtle alters are slight different in one's real personality, usually a sabotage alter used to keep us under control. This person says, yes, I get punished for speaking the truth. Everyone does, but for some of us, truth is everything and worth risking for others. He says, my father was Air Force and MILAB. My son is an ex-Marine and full of alters. Our military has more programming than any other in the world. This is the main cause of PTSD, which I have had since I was first taken and programmed. It isn't just the military that uses mind control victims. When I was a child, I received Disney programming. They have a base under Disneyland in California. I don't know about this. I don't know the validity of this, so just, use your own judgment. This is where we were broken and programmed. It all began at my school under Project Talent. Project Talent scouts for potential candidates, victims, for the MK Ultra programs. But what is really damning about this is that you can look under, the Freedom of Information Act, and MK Ultra is a real program. I mean, it's not BS. Matter of fact, in 1947, 1948, James Forrestal was given was part of MK Ultra or something like that. And when he found out that what it really was, he was going to speak out about it. And he was given large doses of LSD, and they said he needs to be hospitalized, and they placed him in a hospital room. I'm not sure how many stories up, but it was very high up. And he supposedly used sheets and jumped out a window and committed suicide, but that didn't happen. There were agents that came in. They said that they tied sheets around Forrestal's neck and threw him out the window, that he did not commit suicide. Says, how would someone know if they were part of MK Ultra? Everyone is under the influence of MK Ultra. The methods of mind control are integral to mass media programming and subliminals. Then there are the thousands who are in specific programs. They are tagged and studied subjects. There are countless black operations working within MK Ultra, most of all beyond using that acronym. It's all mind control methodology. Most subjects don't even know they are in the program. The amnesia tech causes further emotional damage. There will be a lot of things you can brush off, like losing time, strange incidents, unexplained injuries, waking up in odd places. There will be handlers posing as friends, family, teachers, or in employment. You might brush this all off for years. Any sane person would. The depth of infiltration into the subject's personal life only sounds like horrific paranoia. That's part of the plausible denial. I don't wholly dismiss people who act crazy anymore, especially when they talk about being followed or tortured. There might be something that drove them over the edge. Behavior issues or even substance dependency may occur. These will compound a subject's sense of confusion and self-loathing. It increases doubt of their own sanity. Something happens in your 30s. The programming is shoddy or unable to adapt to changes in the brain. Things start coming back. Scenarios you've always remembered but made no sense are expanded. Moments in labs, strangers asking questions, places you've never been but know every room. A full recovery and understanding of everything they did may never be possible, and I guess that's not so bad. I can't remember a number of things, and I know it's because I'm not able to handle the truth yet. It's a terrifying process that is a form of psychosis. It can be especially hard for some, and they don't make it. Oh, that's really rough. And the main players of the MK Ultra mind control program were people like Dr. Ewen Cameron, E-W-E-N Cameron, the head of the American Psychiatric Association. Whoa. That's right, the head of the American Psychiatric Association. Says psychiatric patients were admitted to the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal, Quebec from 1953 to 1963, and who came under the care of Dr. Ewan Cameron, the head of the American Psychiatric Association, were aware he worked for the CIA in its MK-Ultra mind control program. Some patients did recover partial memories of their past. Others were not so fortunate, becoming paranoid schizophrenics or dying from their treatment. For example, Linda McDonald, a 57-year-old Vancouver woman, was admitted to the Allen Hospital when she was 25 for fatigue and depression following the birth of her 5th child. She was put into a drug-induced sleep for at least 86 days. She lost all memory of her life, including the ability to read and write. After she was released, she needed toilet training and eventually lost her husband and 6 children. The horrors of psychic driving, psychotropic drug use, and electroshock therapy and their effects are detailed online at dgibbs.faculty.arizona.ed. Horrible. I mean, and it just goes on and on and on. Now, one thing that you have to ask is these, people that are like the Las Vegas, shooter. He was on psychotropic drugs, medication. Matter of fact, I believe that every shooter, every those that commit, go on murder sprees or shooters or whatever. I think that just about every one of them, the school shooters, that they were on some type of psychotropic, which is antipsychotic, medication, if not antidepressant. Now, what if, and I'm not saying that this is, I'm just asking a question, what if these people that suddenly just lose it, who were never actually violent or even the least bit violent in their entire life, they just lose it? Well, truthfully, no one just loses it. No one just does anything. There's always something that leads up to what takes place. So, with that being said, could it be possible that, and I'm not blaming, I'm not suggesting, I'm just asking a question. Could it be that these people that have committed these shootings and things like that, could it be that they're part of a mind control program? And that they're not so much the ones doing it. They're being controlled, and yes, they cause tremendous pain. They take many victims, but could it be that they're in fact a victim themselves? Maybe the biggest one, the biggest victim. Who knows? But it's definitely a question to ask. I mean, wow. Just imagine, if that were to be true. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick break, and I will be back in just a few minutes. So we'll pick up where we left off.
Imagine a world where we all belong. dressed in our finest, walking the walk. Ooh, imagine what we could do. Happy days be our guest, happy days manifest. Let's stand together, put a smile on our faces, fill us up with your grace and make us better. Dress us for all weather. No need to seek shelter, everyone's free, and the best they can be. Tall grass sing songs and trees play a symphony. Ooh, imagine what we could do. Happy days be our guest, happy days manifest. Let's stand together, put a smile on our faces, fill us up with your grace and make us better. Dress us for all weather. Abbeys, I wonder who we'd be. At ease in the great mystery. Happy days be our guest, happy days manifest. Let's stand together, put a smile on our faces, fill us up with your grace and make us better. Happy days be our guest, happy days manifest. Let's stand together, put a smile on our faces, fill us up with your grace and make us better. Dress us for all weather.
And I'm back. Yeah, so what is the purpose of the Illuminati and MK Ultra? And it's really strange because what you find out when you research this is that there's really not a lot of difference in MK Ultra, the occult, ritual abuse, whatever you want to call it. There's not a lot of difference. There's a lot of terms, a lot of names, a lot of labels, but it all goes back to the same thing, and that is control. Control. What do people with power want? They don't need money. They can burn money. I mean, they don't need money. What do people with power want? More power. What is power? Control. And so control is best obtained by, you got it, controlling someone's mind, their choices, the choices they make. And that's the name of the game with MK Ultra, or any type of mind control. Now, one thing about mind control is that it
Usually, well, let's see. Let me rephrase that. When you're talking about things like ritual abuse, black magic, Satanism, and all that. Okay, in my opinion, those are just labels. It all goes back to mind control. Controlling a person's choices, their free will. It's like I've always said, the demonic, if you want to say satanic, but I use the term demonic. It's all about control. Demons are puppet masters. They pull the strings. Well, when you're a puppet, when you're a puppeteer, you have to know what strings to pull for the desired effect. And these people that are in charge of this, they know exactly what strings to pull. They know what buttons to push. And it's not the same buttons that work on everybody. Everybody's different. So different handlers are assigned to different people, and they know exactly what buttons to push on different people. And they don't have to push many, but they know what buttons to push to control that person. And or to put that person in a state of accepting their suggestions. So it's very, very unsettling, very spooky when you think about it. It's like, how many people have you talked to, have you come across that you never knew was part of a mind control program? And from reports, statistics, they're all over the place. And that's very sad. Very sad. Because psychological abuse, mental abuse is, in my opinion, is worse than physical. But the physical abuse with the psychological abuse is what causes the fracture of the mind. And you say, all the Kardashians have turned blonde. Well, the Kardashians, well, they would be, there's another, that would be a way of influencing the public, especially young people. I mean, so, excuse me. In 1973, Richard Helm had a special incinerator added at the CIA as the volume of MK Ultra files were beyond normal capacities. What we know went into this incinerator were MK Ultra, the CIA funding and use of semantic differential and CIA activities in Chile. In 1976, it turned out that the Frank Church Senate Intelligence Committee investigations had uncovered some surviving files in the accounting department at the CIA. Richard Helms was in Germany at the rise of Hitler, studying all his propaganda techniques and other dirty tricks. The CIA collected all real and feared weapons U.S. enemies might use against us, including in the field of psychology. The CIA never envisioned any part of MK Ultra becoming public, and only a small part in accounting survived Richard Helms' best efforts to eradicate it all. Then the Senate kept some parts secret. then the journalists focused more on those in which were legal cases or dramatic personal stories, real or invented. Nothing helped the CIA divert attention from the fact that psychology was a major focus or research in warfare than tabloid stories of people claiming to have been victims of CIA mind control. So that's another thing is when you when you know someone discovers truth, something that is true, however outlandish or unbelievable it may be, if someone discovers truth and they speak about it, the way that is handled by the powers that be is it is immediately flooded with many different similar stories, and they all have a conspiratorial air about them. I mean, a conspiratorial theme about them. Why is that? It is meant to drown the one truth, the one bit of truth in a sea of conspiracies. It's kind of like disinformation, but it's more or less many different made-up stories, false stories, along the same lines as the true story. And it's human nature to, well, if there's a lot of false stories, then it's all false. And so the truth gets buried. Is it effective? It's very effective. It's crazy. There is a theory that Lee Harvey Oswald was under mind control, that he was an MK Ultra victim. Who knows? It might have been. Some MK Ultra victims actually go rogue. That's certainly freaky to think about that. So anyway, well, we've gone 2.5 hours talking about mind control, MK Ultra, and those affected by it. This is open forum night. Is there anything in any other topic that you want to bring up or that you want to talk about? Mona, I think you're the only one here left. If there is, then feel free to bring it up. We've got 30 minutes, and if not, then I'm going to call it a night. So, just not too many people took part in the live chat tonight. Randy and Mona. Mona, you say there are implications of John D. Rockefeller being a part of that. Oh, very interesting. Well, Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller, would certainly has, well, the Rockefellers have their hands on everything because they're so rich. I mean, they're the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, they have, vast riches. I mean, nothing is off limits to them. Let's see. So, okay, MK Ultra, top secret CIA project in which the agency conducted experiments in mind control, and it does mention the Rockefellers. Okay. It says, let's see here. Alan Dulles, who really disliked JFK with a passion, was director of the CIA in 1953. He was the one that approved Project MK Ultra in 1953. The covert operation aimed to develop techniques that could be used against Soviet bloc enemies to control human behavior with drugs and other psychological manipulators. Okay, and then it goes on. The CIA began to experiment with LSD under the direction of agency chemist and poison expert Sidney Gottlieb. He believed the agency could harness the drug's mind-altering properties for brainwashing or psychological torture. Under the auspices of Project MK Ultra, the CIA began to fund studies at Columbia University, Stanford University, and other colleges on the effects of the drug. After a series of tests, the drug was deemed too unpredictable for use in counterintelligence. MK Ultra also included experiments with MDMA, which is ecstasy, mescaline, heroin, barbiturates, methamphetamine, and magic mushrooms. Operation Midnight Climax was an MK Ultra project in which government-employed prostitutes lured unsuspecting men to CIA safe houses where drug experiments took place. The CIA dosed the men with LSD, and then while at times drinking cocktails behind a two-way mirror, watched the drug's effect on the men's behavior. Recording devices were installed in the prostitutes' rooms disguised as electrical outlets. Most of the Operation Midnight Climax experiments took place in San Francisco and in Marin County, California, and in New York City. The program had little oversight and CIA agents involved, admitting that a freewheeling party-like atmosphere prevailed. An agent named George White wrote to Gottlieb in 1971, "Of course, I was a very minor missionary, actually a heretic, but toiled wholeheartedly in the vineyards because it was fun. Where else could a red-blooded American boy lie, kill, cheat, steal, deceive, rape, and pillage with the sanction and blessing of the All-Highest?" Well, see, I mean, that's messed up. The death of Frank Olson. Now, this is big time. Even now, this happened in 1953. Frank Olson was a scientist who worked for the CIA. At a 1953 CIA retreat, Olson drank a cocktail that had been secretly spiked with LSD. A few days later, on November 28, 1953, Olson tumbled to his death from the window of a New York City hotel room in an alleged suicide. The family of Frank Olson decided to have a second autopsy performed in 1994. A forensics team found injuries on the body that had likely occurred before the fall. The findings sparked conspiracy theories that Olson might have been assassinated. After prolonged legal proceedings, Olson's family was rewarded a settlement of $750,000 and received a personal apology from Gerald Ford and then CIA Director William Colby. Ken Kesey and other MK Ultra participants. Ken Kesey, author of the 1962 novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, volunteered for MK Ultra experiments. Kesey later went on to promote the drug, hosting LSD-fueled parties that he called acid test. Okay. Other notable people. Now this is shocking. This is very shocking. Other notable people who reportedly volunteered for CIA-backed experiments with LSD include Robert Hunter, the Grateful Dead band member, songwriter. Get this, Ted Kaczynski, better known as the Unabomber. And as we've said, James Joseph Whitey Bulger, the notorious Boston mobster. So, man, the Unabomber? Wow. Anyway, there was a movement to investigate the CIA activities within the United States, to investigate illegal CIA activities, including Project MK Ultra and other experiments on unsuspecting citizens. The commission was led by Vice President Nelson Rockefeller and is commonly referred to as the Rockefeller Commission. The Church Committee, helmed by Idaho Democratic Senator Frank Church, was a larger investigation into the abuses of the CIA, FBI, and other U.S. intelligence agencies during and after the resignation of President Richard Nixon. So, it goes on and on. It's very, very deep. And so, as much as we would like to say, hey, you know, this is a bunch of this isn't true, you know, it's just a bunch of conspiracy. It's really not. It's not conspiracy at all. It is very much a real thing, something that happened, and something that most of us would usually think about in movies and you know, like the Bourne Supremacy, you know, the Bourne series, the Jason Bourne series, where he was programmed, you know, to be an assassin. Hey, you know, that's, yes, Mona, it's disgusting. It really is. When you take someone's free will and you play around with it, you alter it for your own purposes, it's despicable. It really is. But anyway, well, thank you, Mona and Randy and Nazreen, for being a part of tonight's live chat. Thank you for those of you who listened but didn't take part in the live chat. And thank you for those of you who are listening to the replay. I appreciate it. You can send me a message via email, thetexturesistpodcast@gmail.com, if you have any ideas for topics or shows that you want to hear, that you want to discuss, or possibly come on via phone call with me for a show. Just send me an email and let me know about it. Anyway, love and light to you all. Love you all. Good night from Texas. See you next time.